En esta lección vamos a revisar los usos de los pronombres relativos. Un repaso de los pronombres relativos. Tenemos que es la forma más común y las otras formas. El que, los que, la que, las que, lo que, quien, quienes, el cual, lo cual, cuyo, dónde y cuánto. La forma más común es que y se usa con personas, lugares y cosas, particularmente en cláusulas restrictivas sin preposiciones. So, as a review, remember the restrictive clauses are clauses without commas that restrict the antecedent to say that it is this or these things, people, places, as opposed to something else. Es el pronombre relativo más común. Ejemplos. El libro que compré es muy interesante. The book that I bought is very interesting. So this is a restrictive clause because we're referring to the book that I bought as opposed to some other book. So we're specifying which book, so in other words, we're restricting this book from any other book or from the books that I didn't buy. Entonces, ejemplo número 2, la médica que trabaja aquí es muy talentosa. The doctor that works here is very talented. So the doctor that works here, as opposed to some other doctor, restricting which doctor it is very talented. Se usa que después de la mayoría de preposiciones de una sílaba, con, de, en o a, cuando el antecedente es una cosa o un lugar. So after prepositions, when the antecedent is a thing or a person. So, por ejemplo, la pelota con que practico fútbol está en el carro. So here we have the preposition con, one of the four, and here we have the antecedent, pelota, which is a thing, right? So therefore we can simply use que. El pueblo a que referí es muy tranquilo. The town to which I referred is very quiet. A que, pueblo antecedente, es un lugar. Número 2, tenemos quién y quiénes. Se usan quién y quiénes exclusivamente con personas, just with people. Significan who or whom en inglés. Se usan después de preposiciones o en cláusulas no restrictivas, con comas. So non-restrictive clauses have commas, and they are not being used to restrict the antecedent. They're not being used to say this antecedent as opposed to other. Por ejemplo, en la oración, mi amiga, quien vive en Chile, está aquí este verano. My friend, who lives in Chile, is here this summer. So I'm not using this relative clause, who lives in Chile, to distinguish which friend I'm referring to. I'm just adding some additional parenthetical, non-essential information to give you some information about my friend. But I'm not using it to distinguish which friend it is. So in other words, I'm not restricting which friend it is by the use of this clause. Therefore, it's a non-restrictive clause, and therefore it needs commas. Ejemplo número 2. Los muchachos de quienes hablaba son Juan y Marco. The guys of whom I was speaking are Juan y Marco. So the guys I was talking about are Juan y Marco. So in this situation, we've got the preposition, the antecedent is a person, so therefore we want to choose quienes to match the number of muchachos. También se usan quién o quienes al principio de una oración para expresar la idea en inglés de one who, he who, or those who. So to express the idea of one who, he who, or those who at the beginning of a sentence. Por ejemplo, quienes practican ganan muchos campeonatos. Those who practice win many championships. Quien hace la tarea saca buenas notas. One who or he who does the homework gets good grades. Ahora tenemos las formas largas, el que, la que, los que, las que, también el cual, la cual, los cuales y las cuales. Las formas largas tienen 4 usos principales. Nota que el artículo el, la, los o las corresponde al género y número del antecedente. So this article that you're using in front of que o cuales must agree in gender and number with the antecedent that it is referring to. A. Se usa después de preposiciones además de con, de, en o a. So if you have any other prepositions, then con, de, en o a, we need to use the long form. Por ejemplo, la ventana por la que o por la cual pasó la pelota ya estaba abierta. The window through which the ball passed was already open. So because we've got the preposition por, and it's not con, de, en o a, we need to use the long form la que or la cual, and the la needs to agree with la ventana. Ejemplo número 2. El supermercado delante del que o del cual está mi casa está cerrado. The supermarket behind which is my home is closed. Here's the preposition delante del, or delante del, de plus el. So this supermercado is singular and masculine, so using el que or el cual. It just becomes del because it's in front of the preposition de. B se usan para referirse al primero de dos posibles antecedentes. So to refer to the first of two possible antecedents. Ejemplos. El tío de Juan, el que o cual vive en San Diego, se llama Mario. So if you take a look at this, we've got two possible antecedents, tío y Juan. So we need to use the long form, el que, to let us know that we're referring to tío, that this relative clause here is going to be modifying tío and not modifying Juan. So if we were modifying Juan, we would say quién o qué. So el tío de Juan, el que o cual vive en San Diego, se llama Mario. So Juan's uncle, who lives in San Diego, is named Mario. Ejemplo número 2. La hermana de mi amiga, la que o la cual viajó conmigo, está en la ciudad. So the sister of my friend's sister, who traveled with me, is in the city. So again, we've got the la que, modifying the first antecedent, hermana, and not amiga. C. Se permite usar estas formas como alternativa a que o quién o quiénes en cláusulas no restrictivas. So if it's a non-restrictive clause, in other words, if it has commas, we can use them as an alternative to que, or if it's the antecedent is a person, quién o quiénes. Por ejemplo, Mónica Puig, la que, la cual, que o quién es de Puerto Rico, gané el torneo. Mónica Puig, who is from Puerto Rico, won the tournament. So here we can use all these forms, la que, la cual, que o quién. So we've got non-restrictive clauses here, and a non-restrictive clause, right, as an alternative to que. Ese muchacho, el que, el cual, que o quien vivió con mi familia, es escritor. So again, we've got el que or el cual as an alternative to que o quien when it's in a non-restrictive clause offset by commas. Se puede usar el que, la que, los que, las que al principio de una oración para expresar la idea en inglés de he who, one who, or those who. So the idea of he who, one who, or those who. No se permite usar el, la, los, las, cual o cuales en estas situaciones. So the rule is that you can never use the cual form, so the el, la, los, o las, cual o cuales, to begin a sentence. If you begin the sentence, you must, with one of these, you must use the el que or la que. So an important thing to remember is there's never a situation when you must use el, la, los, o las, cuales. It's never a situation when you must use the cual or cuales form. You can always use this form. But there are some situations when you can't use the cual form. So my advice is to always just use the el que, la que, los que, las que, because you can never be wrong with that, but sometimes you'll be wrong with the cual form. Por ejemplo, los que hagan la tarea sacan buenas notas. Those who do the homework get good grades. El que haga la tarea saca buenas notas. He who does the homework gets good grades. So again, you cannot use los cuales, you cannot use el cual, because it's the beginning of the sentence. Lo que y lo cual. Lo que y lo cual son formas neutras, neuter forms, que se usan cuando el antecedente es una idea o cláusula, y así que no tiene género. So the antecedent is an idea or an entire clause or action, then you're going to use the neuter form, because of course if it's an action or an idea, it does not have a gender, and therefore you can't use a corresponding article in front of this to match up with the gender of the antecedent. Se puede usar los dos de manera intercambiable, pero nunca se permite empezar una oración con lo cual. So just like the last set, you can never begin the sentence with lo cual. If you want to begin the sentence, you have to use lo que. So therefore, it's probably just best to get in the habit of always using lo que. Ejemplos. El examen no es hoy, lo que o cual me gusta. The test is not today, which I like. Lo que no entiendes es que va a llover. What you don't understand is that it's going to rain. So in this case, we're beginning the sentence, so we're using lo que and not lo cual. 5. Tenemos cuánto, cuánta, cuántos y cuántas. Esos pronombres relativos significan all that or as much or as many as en inglés. Se usa el indicativo después cuando el antecedente es definido y el subjuntivo cuando el antecedente es indefinido. So when the antecedent is definite, right, we're using the indicative, and when the antecedent is indefinite, we're using the subjunctive. So I'll explain that better, more clearly with examples. Ejemplos. Voy a hacer cuanto me pidas. I'm going to do all that you ask of me. So in this case, the antecedent is whatever it is that I'm going to do. All that you ask of me. Now we're using the subjunctive here of pedir because all that you ask of me is not clear. It's an indefinite antecedent, right? Because it's not known and identified. We do not know what it is that you're going to ask me to do, so therefore I must use the subjunctive. Compare that with the second example. Hice cuanto me pidiste. I did all that you asked of me. So pediste in this case is using the indicative because we know what the antecedent is, right? I did all that you asked of me. And because I've already done it, it is a definite antecedent. It's known and identified, and therefore we're going to use the indicative of pedir. Por fin tenemos cuyo, cuya, cuyos y cuyas. Estos pronombres significan whose en inglés y funcionan como pronombres relativos y adjetivos posesivos. So they function as relative pronouns and possessive adjective. Por eso, la forma de cuyo debe tener concordancia con el sustantivo que modifica. So therefore, cuyo must agree with the noun that it modifies. So it's like a hybrid relative pronoun and possessive adjective, which you'll see in the examples. Número 1. Mi amiga, cuya familia vive en Francia, viene este fin de semana. So my friend, whose family lives in France, is coming this weekend. So you notice that the cuya is modifying, or referring back to, I should say, my friend. It's giving me information about my friend. That's the antecedent. But it's also modifying familia. It's showing possession. Whose family? So you just have to remember that even though the antecedent is amiga, the form of cuyo must agree in gender and number with the noun that it's modifying. So in this case, we've got familia, singular feminine, so therefore we're using cuya. Ejemplo número 2. María es la persona cuyo perro estuvo en la calle. So in this case, we've got la persona is the antecedent, right? That's feminine, but we're still using cuyo, the singular masculine form, because it's showing possession for perro, and perro is masculine and singular. Y esta es la lección sobre los pronombres relativos.